If you are thinking about moving to the Bellingham area and specifically you are looking at Alabama Hill, well, today I am going to jump on my laptop. We're going to dive into Google Maps and I'm going to give you a geographic lesson on where is Alabama Hill, what's the topography like, what's close by, and explain how the streets work and all of that. So if you're wondering, about Alabama Hill, we're going to look at that today. This is one of 3 Alabama Hill videos. I've got a couple others, so if you want to take a deeper dive on Alabama Hill, feel free to do so here on the channel. And by the way, my name's Tim Cornwell. I'm your local Bellingham real estate agent. I've lived here all my life, and I'm so excited to share with you my experience and knowledge of the area. And actually, a little human interest story is the very first house that I ever lived in when I got married was on Alabama Hill. So I'm really excited to share more about Alabama Hill with you today. We are ready with Google Maps. I'm really excited to explain the Alabama Hill neighborhood to you so you can get a better understanding if this is the right fit for you or not. And so let's go ahead and take a look. I got to put my glasses on. Without them, it will be a scary experience. So there's the good old US of A. We're going to go up here to the PNW, the Great Pacific Northwest. And as you can see, we have Vancouver, BC to the north. We've got Seattle down to the south. Bellingham is about 100 miles north of Seattle. And I don't know, we're probably 45 miles south of Vancouver. And as we zoom in here, let's just take a look at Alabama Hill neighborhood. And it is centrally located in Bellingham, just east of town. So let's see, if we zoom out a little bit, I like the satellite view a little bit better than the map view because I kind of get an idea of like streets and houses and things like that. So let's look at big picture here, Whatcom County. Let's talk about the north area of Washington State. So we have Bellingham is our biggest city, it's about 100,000 people. And then the next city would be Linden, which is straight north from Bellingham, pretty close to the border. Then right up on the border over here is Blaine. And then our other city is Ferndale. So those are all, fairly close together. I can get to Linden or Blaine from Bellingham probably in about 30 minutes. And then down south, we have Skagit County is the next county south of Whatcom County. And the 3 main cities in Skagit are Mount Vernon, Burlington, and Cedar Woolley. So you may have heard of those before. I don't know, maybe not. When we think about big picture geography, as we zoom out here in the Pacific Northwest, this body of water here is called what's Puget Sound. And then through these islands, or these are the San Juan Islands. So this is the Strait of Juan de Fuca, goes through the San Juan Islands. And then this big body of land over here is actually an island. It's called Vancouver Island. And so that's Canada. So that comes actually down south of the border. And if we look at the city of Victoria, which people are familiar with, that is actually kind of east-west in alignment with Mount Vernon. So that's crazy when you think about that. So again, here's the beautiful San Juan Islands. You've probably heard of the San Juan Islands. If you haven't, they're spectacular. It is our ocean playground for people that live here. It is so much fun to go out there and millions of things to do. So west of Bellingham is the Bellingham Bay. And again, that is a main focal point of Bellingham historically as well as today. So that is the biggest body of water. That is the Pacific Ocean. And then if we look at some lakes, we can look over here. Lake Samish is just south of Bellingham off of Interstate 5. So Lake Samish, I went to school at Western Washington University. I was on the rowing team there, and we would drive from campus to Lake Samish every morning for practice. We would have our regattas there. So that is a great lake for swimming, fishing, boating activities, things of that nature. And there's some great homes around the lake too, great waterfront homes. The other lake we have is in south of Bellingham. It's called Lake Padden. And right next to it is Lake Padden Golf Course. Lake Padden is awesome. There really aren't any homes built around Lake Padden. It's preserved. But there's some great trails, and it's such an awesome place to go. and run, hike, bike, swim, fish, do all kinds of fun activities there at Lake Padden. And then if we go right above Alabama Hill neighborhood, very top of the hill is Lake Whatcom. Now, Lake Whatcom is a big lake. It's very long. I'm not quite sure how many miles that is. That might be 7 to 11 miles. I can't remember off the top of my head. But it's super deep. I think it's close to 1,000 feet deep at the deepest parts of the lake. But again, it is a great lake for all kinds of boating activity. And there's some incredible homes on Lake Whatcom. So there's a tiny little lake out here called, some people call it Toad Lake, some people call it Emerald Lake. I guess they don't like the word toad, who knows? But there's also some nice homes built around Toad Lake, a little more affordable. Okay, so now let's talk about distance to places from Alabama Hill. And then we will take a deep dive. We'll get into the nitty gritty of Alabama Hill neighborhood itself, but we're still kind of macro looking at proximity to everything else in the world. So here is Interstate 5. That is our main freeway that goes through Bellingham. And it will go all the way to Canada, take you all the way to the border, but then it also goes down south through Washington. It gets you to Seattle, Oregon, California, and all the way into Mexico. So it is our main high-speed arterial through the middle of town. So if you are trying to get, let's talk about getting places. So if you needed to get to, let's say, Trader Joe's, and you're up here in Alabama Hill neighborhood, you're going to jump on Alabama Street. You come all the way down here to James Street. Boom, Trader Joe's right there. Now, we actually have 2 Trader Joe's locations in Bellingham, which is epic because this one was getting so jammed, it was difficult. So we're really excited that Trader Joe's built a second location. Now, what about the hospital? Now, Alabama Street, again, is a major arterial right here. You jump on Alabama, come to the bottom of the hill, get on the freeway, go out to the Sunset exit, and there is your St. Joe's Hospital campus. I have had surgery there. I've had different experiences there. My grandkids were born there. My kids were actually born there. What am I talking about? My own children were born there. So a lot of memories at St. Joseph Hospital. If you were thinking, I want to go do some big shopping, you want to go to Costco, same thing, you get on I-5 North, and you're going to go up here to the Bakerview exit, and there's your Costco. If you wanted to do other retail things, like big, national brand type stores, you go up Meridian Street, I-5 up to Meridian Street, here's your Bellows Fair Mall, and then as you go north, all kinds of different retail locations, including there's the other Trader Joe's out there, Sierra Trading Post. We've got your Texas Roadhouse. Our Walmart is out there, okay? So we do have a Walmart. And we actually have a Chick-fil-A coming. The Chick-fil-A should be opening any minute. Bellingham is finally on the map with Chick-fil-A. So I just want my In-N-Out burger. That's what I want. Let's see, what else do I want to show you? Oh, Western Washington University. So same thing, you're going to get on Alabama Street, come down here, head south on I-5, and then Western is right over here on the other side of Seahome Hill. Also down here, Fairhaven, huge place that people like to go, Fairhaven. And then downtown Bellingham, which has all kinds of shopping, kind of independent. So downtown Bellingham is the indie label of all things retail. Whereas you get out to like Sunset, Barclay, Meridian, that's going to be more of your national chains. But here we go with downtown Bellingham and the marina, Bellingham Bay. I didn't mention Barclay Village, so let's take one. We'll mention that one as the last one to take a look at. So let's go back to Alabama Hill neighborhood. There we are right there. And Barclay Village is right over here. So Barclay Village is kind of our financial district for Bellingham. It also has a Higgins grocery store. We've got multiple restaurants. We've got a theater. We've got medical offices over here with dental, Chicago Title, Bellingham Public Schools, corporate offices over there. So that's probably the closest grocery store to Alabama Hill is going to be right over there to Hagen. Although over here on Lakeway, we get over here and jump on Lakeway, there is a Whole Foods not too far away as well. So it's pretty close. Okay, so let's look at topography. It is called a hill, Alabama Hill. So I'm going to go 3D with this. Maybe you can see that a little bit. You can kind of tell it's a hill. But I would say from the bottom of the hill to the top, there's probably a 300-foot elevation. So to go up Alabama Hill, up Alabama Street, it's a great workout if you wanted to run, hike, or bike up the hill. That'll definitely get your cardio going. But the layout is interesting because I'm going to see if I can spin this around a little bit. So if you were to imagine Alabama Street is the trunk of the tree, then all these side streets are the branches. And the interesting thing is, as you come down one of these side streets, none of them go anywhere because we are surrounded by parks. Whatcom Falls Park here, Bloedel Donovan Park here, Big Rock Park here, and then we've got a Greenway over here in the Barkley area. So we are surrounded on the south and the north side by green space. So what that means is when you get to the end of one of these streets right there, for example, boom, that's a cul-de-sac. Right there, cul-de-sac. Right there, that does not go through, that stops right there, crest line. So none of these streets are arterials that go all the way through. Really, every street funnels back over to Alabama Street to get in and out of the neighborhood. And I guess might be a nuisance for some people. If you're like really in a hurry and you wanted to be able to get where you wanted to go quickly, but it's a central location. Everything's pretty close by. And I think it has such great benefit because if I live, let's see, I'll just pick a random spot. Let's say I live over here in this house. Man, I got this nice little quiet cul-de-sac. This is on Crestline Drive. There's not much traffic. And everybody that drives in and out of that street, they live there. They're my neighbor. So it creates a lot of, to me, it creates a lot of security, a lot of safety, a lot of community, because you don't have a lot of side traffic from different parts of the city that would go through here. Look at that, there's even a swimming pool. Can you believe that they have swimming pools in Bellingham? Yes, indeed. So let me switch this back around again so we're looking the correct way. So now north is headed up. And I wanted to mention that back in 1990, a program was initiated by the citizens of Bellingham, some forward-thinking citizens, and they said, we want to preserve open space, parks, green, and we want to create an interconnected trail system so that you can always have access to nature. And so they proposed this to the city. It was approved. There was a levy that was put before the voters, and it's been funded. It's actually been funded 5 different times right now. And through the Alabama Hill neighborhood, we have a trail called the Railroad Trail. And there you can see the Railroad Trail Alabama Street overpass. Maybe there's some pictures of it. I'm not sure. Yeah, we don't really have any good pictures of it, but it's an overpass that goes over Alabama Street. And then that trail, that railroad trail, connects you all the way over here to Barkley Village. It goes all the way over to Whatcom Falls Park. And then you're in Whatcom Falls Park and there's trails everywhere. So there's some cool things that were funded by the Greenways. So I don't know if you've heard about Galbraith Mountain, but the Greenways funded an easement for 2,100 acres up at Galbraith Mountain. Galbraith Mountain is the mecca for mountain bikers. It is a world-class mountain biking facility right here in Bellingham. The Greenways levy gave us public access to Galbraith. It's also created the Taylor Dock. If you're familiar with Taylor Dock down in the Fairhaven area, South Hill, that was covered by the Greenways. There's a bunch of other very cool projects in the area that Greenways has covered. So, but the idea was that we want to preserve these green spaces in these parks and not allow development just to come in and make all these roads, 4-lane roads that are going 45 miles an hour. And so Alabama Hill is a good example of that, where you can't get anywhere in and out of the neighborhood except for Alabama Street, right? So like I said, it creates a sense of community, a sense of quiet, and a sense of security and safety, which I really appreciate. Okay, before we go any further, I wanted to ask you, could you see yourself living in the Alabama Hill neighborhood? Is this a good fit for you? Has this been helpful for you, this video? I hope so. Because if it is, I'd like you to interact. First of all, if this is good information, you'd like to look at further information that I put out about Bellingham neighborhoods, go ahead and like this video and subscribe to the channel. And then if you hit the notifications button, you'll get a notification every time I put out a new video. So I try to put out 1 or 2 of these every week. I hope my intention to help provide you great information so that you can make a good decision is coming true. Oh, the other one is, if you want to connect, if you want to talk about Alabama Hill neighborhood or anything else Bellingham, all my contact information is below. So reach out anytime. Let's have that conversation. All right, I touched on parks, and now I'm going to go a little bit further into parks. So this one to the south, well, there's this little tiny park called St. Clair Park. And that's right on the outskirts of the neighborhood. There's a little playground in there. Maybe there's a picture of it. No, but it's just an open space, a little playground. But it does go into Whatcom Falls Park, which is 241 acres. And then Whatcom Creek goes through the park. So Whatcom Creek comes from Lake Whatcom, goes down through here, and goes through the park. And people like to swim. There's a little cliff that people will jump off of. There's Whatcom Falls. Super beautiful. You hear the water rushing through and the trees and the trails. You can get to this very easily and very quickly, and instantly you're in nature. Very quiet, very peaceful. There's a little pump track over here there it is, that you can ride your bike on. They've got a basketball court there. There's some tennis courts at Whatcom Falls Park. A lot of, mowed area where you can have a picnic. And then they have a fish hatchery over here as well. And then they have this little lagoon where they do a fishing derby. It's pretty cool. It's very peaceful. So that is Whatcom Falls Park. And then this is Bloedel Donovan Park. And one of my favorite parts of Bloedel Donovan is the boat launch. So we have a public boat launch right here where you can launch your boat. And I have a buddy of mine, and we like to go there in the summertime and ride our e-foil boards, which is a surfboard with an arm below it and then a little electric propeller. And so you go through the water and then whoop, it goes up and hydrofoils, and you're about 3 feet above the surface of the water on this little hydrofoil thing. So those are very fun. But Bloedel Donovan is great. They have a pavilion here you can rent. They have all this grass area where people love to go hang out and get some sun. And then they have a great swimming area. They have a sandy beach and a volleyball court. So Bloedel is awesome. And then Big Rock Park is super cool as well, because the Big Rock Garden Park has this area right in here that has a bunch of sculptures. And I've went there, I've walked around, it's super fun. And it's interesting to look at the different sculptures they have. So that's just right on the edge of the neighborhood. And then right in the neighborhood over here is Highland Heights Park, which just has a playground, a little mowed area, but great place to take the kids, take your dog for a walk, do a little picnic during the day, whatever. But we are surrounded by parks, which is super cool. The other thing I wanted to mention is some of the history about Lake Whatcom and the creek. And that is, back when Bellingham was founded, there was so much logging and timber. So all these hills were logged, and all those logs went down into Lake Whatcom. And then they would bring these logs over here. There was a mill up here where they would mill the logs into lumber, but they would also run whole logs down the creek and run that creek. They'd go all the way down to Bellingham Bay where there was another mill. And to move a lot of that lumber and all that equipment and stuff, they had railroads. So there were railroads running around Alabama Hill area. And what they've done is they've taken those railroads. You can see this trail. That was the old railroad trail right there. They've taken the railroad out, of course, and now they have a trail from the old railroad bed, which is super level, and it's wide, and it's easy to ride bike on, push a stroller, walk, run, or whatever. So that is pretty cool, in my opinion. You know what? I think that it pretty much says it all for Oh, you know what? I did want to mention one other thing. I did want to talk about housing types. And the higher up on the hill you are, the lots tend to be bigger and you have a better shot at views, because up on the hill, we are looking west over Bellingham Bay. You're looking west over Bellingham Bay. You can see Lummi Island. You can see Orcas Island. You can see Vancouver Island. So you're looking at the San Juan Islands from the top of Alabama Hill. So some of those nicer homes and the bigger lots and the better views are up at the top. As you get down to the bottom of Alabama Hill, you can see that we get into these smaller lots and smaller houses. So price accordingly. Great starter homes down at the bottom of the hill, smaller house, smaller lot. You get up to the top, it's not uncommon to see a house over $1 million. And there's not really anything other than single family homes. There are some condos over here, but most of the lots are single family detached homes. And there's not a single school or commercial establishment in the entire neighborhood. Now, if you wanted to go, I need to go get I need to go to the closest place possible to get a gallon of milk. You just come down to the bottom of Alabama Hill, you're gonna come right over here to U Street, and we've got a gas station and a little mini mart right here and a strip mall. I think there's a laundromat in there as well. So that's pretty darn close to the edge of the neighborhood. Okay, so I've got 2 other videos about Alabama Hill. One is kind of a vlog, and the other one is pros and cons. So if you want to learn more about Alabama Hill and you want to learn a little bit more about specifics on price and housing types and those kind of things, check out my other videos. But thank you so much for joining me today for the Alabama Hill map video. Again, my contact information is below. I'm Tim Cornwell. I look forward to working with you, helping you find your way to Bellingham and beyond.